How do you learn who you really are? It's not found in books. It's found on the battlefield. What's up, Warriors? Welcome back to the Battlefield of the Mind. I'm Rick from the Warriors Way Mindset. And today I've got a special guest. I'm with Terrie Vanover. And Terrie is also a badass mindset and relationship and human coach. And she works with people and goes into the trenches also. So I love gathering warriors and going in directions that help you fast forward your development and making it so you can kick some ass in the future battles of your mind that you've got too. So welcome, Terrie. And tell people who you are, what you do the thing.
Yeah, so speaking of trenches, I help people who've experienced divorce really heal from, most people come to me thinking it's the divorce, but really the divorce is just a symptom of deeper underlying relationship issues that they really need to heal and move forward from. So that's the trenches, is divorce. Like post-divorce healing work. That's where it's at for me.
It's brutal. Now, when it comes to divorce stuff, people are going to usually have this thing like, hey, listen, I'm fucking everything up here. Is there a way that you can save my marriage, Terrie? Save my marriage. Save it. Like, what do you do when these scenarios come up?
I think that happens often, actually. It's a lot of the times it's women who come to me and there's a couple of things that happen. I think, unfortunately, most people wait too long till the resentment is just too big to overcome. Too many issues, too much communication patterns have just been ingrained. But I do believe one person can make a big difference if the other person kind of sees that and reacts to that, and then they come along too. They see the other person working and they're willing to make those adjustments and make those changes. But it begins with ourselves. We have to bring our best self into our relationship. And speaking from experience, because I was a hot mess in my intimate relationships and I fucked them up real good. And then I learned, I have to really work on myself. I'm expecting my husband to make me feel loved, to love me, to make me feel good. And it really began with me. And then once I started doing all that work, everything shifted. And, now I'm remarried to a wonderful New York, Italian, generous, beautiful man. And he's just wonderful. Now, has he done a lot of personal growth work? Absolutely not. But I think we complement each other in that, we're willing to work through it. We've done some inner work together. We've read books together. I really think it is about a conscious commitment to bringing your best self to a relationship. And people forget that. It's easy to forget that when your partner sometimes is not doing what you want and you feel is failing you and isn't putting in the commitment. But what a shocking surprise it is when one partner really starts putting in that effort, and then the other partner feels more appreciated, more respected, more loved. And it can turn around. Does it? I just think it really depends on how committed couples are to really bringing their best self forward. And I think it also depends on how the people met. Like if they brought a whole bunch, both of them have brought so much trauma into it, and it's just a toxic relationship from the get-go. It's better sometimes for people just to be apart and just heal themselves on their own.
All right. So I got 6 topics just from that.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to go. All right.
Mm-hmm.
First off, you mentioned being your best self multiple times, like be your best self, your best self. And I don't know if it's necessarily a thing where people wake up going, today I'm bringing my worst self to destroy my relationship today. That's the plan. I don't think anybody's waking up like that. They're like, I am doing my best. I just don't know what I'm doing. And I think it's a trained or untrained thing. What do you think when it comes to that? Do you think people are like, you're just not doing your best self? Or like, that is my best self. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here.
Yeah, I love that you kind of are helping me to distinguish that language, because I think you're right. I think, best self. I'm trying to
the buzzwords getting everyone's way
Yeah,
today.
it is. It's like one of those things like or with the higher version of yourself. Like, well, if I could bring
Yeah,
my higher
listen,
version of
we
myself,
got
I think
we
it's
got
just, I think
mushrooms or CBD. Which
yeah.
higher version are you wanting?
I think for me, I think for me, it was just maybe it's because I almost said, it's hitting that rock bottom. For me, it was hitting rock bottom and going, girl, you have got to do something better because, maybe not better, but different, right? Because the way I was showing up in these relationships and the expectations that I had and just kind of sitting with it. So I think a lot of people, and I was listening to one of your podcasts earlier too, and that was one of the things you mentioned about a lot of us just don't even know what our needs are. And I was like, oh my God, that is 100% true. And I'm still, and you mentioned that too about like continuing to do the work on yourself. I'm still doing the work on myself. What is it that I need? What is it that I want? What, but I think the distinction from where I was then to where I am now is like, I'm not looking for others to give myself what those needs are. I've got to figure that out. I think that's where people are, they aren't kind of like just, I got to sit with these uncomfortable feelings or really become introspective about what I'm doing. Why are these patterns going on? And then really, reflect on how can I communicate those needs and
There's a
give
lot of
myself
pieces
what I
there.
need. A lot of my work is around inner child healing and reparenting yourself because I think a lot of us are looking for that partner to fill that void. I think
Well,
99% of us are. I'll
there's
still find myself doing it,
no, we all are. There's a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
aspects I found in that too, in the different parts of that. So even still, the best self part goes into knowing thyself, and
Mm-hmm.
that's usually even in my program. There's when I work on the men's side, so I love that you
Mm-hmm.
like mostly women come your way. I love hearing your point of view because I come from the guys. So I have hundreds of guys, and you're going to have hundreds of women. I'm like, let's go ahead and cross reference the information and see what we find that matches up. With the best self thing, it really is like, well, I was doing my best. I didn't know. But then also like you've got the concepts here of unmet needs, introspection, inner child, hitting rock bottom, expectations. These are all know thyself.
Yeah. Yeah,
And well, where do we
absolutely.
begin? Where do I begin? I've got 5 weeks of hardcore training before I even teach you how to battle anything of like, who are you? Because
Yeah.
most don't know. I've got a cool thing. We can do it one day together where I help people break down their top 2 values. And even with expert coaches, with people who have been doing this for years, I've done this a lot of times and nobody's actually been right. By the time we
Mm.
get down to the 2 authentic main values, they're like, those weren't even on my list, but that is
Mm-hmm.
how I make all my decisions. And that's what I do. I'm like, does it feel
Yeah.
authentic? They're like, this is exactly authentic. And I didn't even know that those were my main reasons I do all the things that I do, let alone set a boundary, let alone how to have non-negotiables, let alone hold the line. Well, I didn't even know my main values to hold a boundary. So how do I do it?
Exactly.
So now we got
Yeah.
untrained people living their best life, doing their best selves. And you're like, well, not to say it's good or bad. It's just that's their best.
It is. And I think that's where post divorce, I had to do a lot of like forgiveness work on myself around that because once I healed a lot of that trauma, like my childhood trauma, and, I looked back and all the like shitty stuff I did in the relationships, man, it was really hard to forgive myself. And that was one of my mantras is like, I did the best that I could with what I knew at the time. If I,
Mm-hmm.
could have done better, I would have done better, but I just didn't. So I do think it's important that, we understand we're doing the best, but if you're seeing patterns and we can shift those patterns and you're willing to shift those patterns in our lives that like, we just have those negative patterns and we know that, like you said, intuitively something feels off. Like it's not quite, isn't fitting. I'm trying to make it fit, but I'm just not quite doing it.
I got a thought for you on that. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you with the thing where like I was doing my best already. Like that's part of your forgiveness system is that was me doing my best. It was a shit show, but it was my best. And I
Yeah.
think that's where like, well, be your best self. Maybe you already were back then. Were you trying to be your worst self? Like, I'm like, today,
You
I'm
know what?
destroying myself today. I'm kicking my ass today. That's the plan.
I was trying to be loved.
Right. But how did you
That's,
do it?
and
Am I going to
yeah,
force love, or do we
yeah.
surrender and fall in love?
I
You
was
know,
trying to force
I'm
it.
going to force it.
And so I bet you're like this too, Rick. I have a completely different mind shift around what love is and now I give myself that love and I give others that love. Like I'm that being of love, and it's not others' job to love me. It's my job to love them.
Well,
Byron Katie doesn't want to work.
how can somebody love you if you can't?
Exactly.
And this is,
Exactly. And I was like forcing the hell out of it. Somebody.
well, especially
and,
the women's
yeah.
side. The women's side have a hard time. They're very critical of themselves, very not nice internally. When I work with women, the curses for women usually fall into the denial aspect of things, where I don't want to accept the reality of what it is. And so when they look in the mirror, that's not good. That's too much. That's big. My nose is too big. My eyes are this. My boobs aren't big enough. My butt is too fat. Like they're just tear themselves apart, just brutally. They don't like themselves. They're not kind to themselves. They don't love themselves. And then I'm going to force you to love me. Why don't you love me for who I am? And you go like, well, I love the idea. Can you do it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that was me. That was me.
So you can't love yourself. You don't like yourself,
Right.
but other people are supposed to just love you.
Yeah. And that's where all that inner child work and that reparenting work came in, all of that, like just doing the work on me to love myself and like know that I am unconditionally loved. I don't have to earn that love. I am love. I can, feel love. I am lovable. I am worthy. And then it just completely shifts. I do agree with you. I think that women in particular are kind of conditioned societally
It's a comparison
to be a certain way and people please. There's a lot for women in particular.
It's very common as the comparison curse. It starts when you guys are early teens. As soon as you start changing from little girl into the transformation to woman, the teenage years around 10 to 12 is when it's like, well, you don't look like her, or you're not as pretty as her, or you're not as popular as her, as you're not as liked as her, as you're not as good as her. And, almost all of the curses that I see from women have come from women. When it comes to this, it's usually a mom or somebody who's like, oh, that doesn't work on your figure, or you shouldn't do that, or you need to lose weight, or you need to do this. And it's usually women causing these self things for women.
We're projecting our own insecurities and like, well, if you just be better, you'll be lovable, right? If you just, have a certain weight, if you look a certain way, you'll be lovable. I mean, it's out of that fear, we want our daughters or, our sisters or our friends to be accepted.
Have you seen the breakdown I did for the makeup curse, what makeup is? Have you seen? All right. So I call them curses. Even on To Be Better, Chris called me out. He's like, why do you keep calling them curses? I'm like, these are the belief systems that were put into us by other people that we perpetuate. You have been cursed and you keep the curse alive. And if you think about just makeup, just start off with the beginning. You're not good enough the way you are. That's doubt. That's a doubt curse. You're not, what you are is not enough. You need to be accentuated. You need to be enhanced. You need to be different. And so then you go into bargaining. You're not good enough as you are, but you could be if you wear this lipstick. You could be if you have this eyeliner. You could be if you wear this outfit. You could be if you do your hair this way. You could be if. Now we go into this fantasy thing. Then we have to add denial to it. Well, I'm not being authentic, but I need to call it authenticity so I can feel confident and feel good in myself. So I'm accentuating. I'm not changing. I'm not, I'm making it better just because it's for me only, just for me, when really it's massive seeking approval. It's massive acceptance. I need belonging. I want to be, attention. I need the attention, like whatever it would be. Well, we can't call it that. That doesn't feel good. So I'm going to call it just being my best self. Right.
Yeah.
That's the denial. But then you have to go into the excuses. Are you really being authentic? Are you really being truthful? Don't fucking ask me. Go fuck yourself. Like, you don't talk to me. You're going to get a negative reaction if you try and peel back the layers of the reason why I do what I do. So you're going to see negativity come out if you're ever challenged. Well, you're in excuses then, and then we justify. Now, justifications are amazing because you can do anything and create a justification to make you do the most vile of things and call yourself a good person. And so now we're doing this, and then you add in the fear aspect. If they only knew who I really was, I wouldn't be loved. So I have to wear the mask. Why do you think makeup is called? It's makeup. It's made up.
Yeah.
I have to make up a different me so that way I am loved. The worst thing about makeup is it works.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing is it works. It does a good job. It makes you feel better. It makes other people go, hey, I'm going to compliment how great you look when you don't look like you do. That's an interesting curse. And it gets put on you when you were very, 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 very little. As soon as it started going to boys will like you better. And it starts with just do eyeliner. Just do a little blush. Now do a foundation with blush. Now throw a little bit of lipstick on there. Now change your eyelashes. Now do this. And if you get caught up in like the burden of beauty is your identity, then it starts getting into like, well, it'd be better if you had thicker lips. Well, it'd be better if you had bigger boobs. Well, it'd be better if you had a bigger butt. It'd be better if you had thinner waist. It'd be better if you did surgery for. It'd be better if you changed this. And people get caught up in you're not good enough, but you could be, and call it who you really are. Don't let it get challenged and excused. Justify all of it by gaslighting your own truth. And then don't let them know who you really are because it'll be terrifying and no one will love you. And we call this living our best life.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I had a whole group of ladies when we broke it down and they were like, well, fuck me. That's my thing.
Yeah.
I call it accentuating.
Yeah.
Enhancing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it starts young. My daughter said last night in the tub, she's 9. And it's the whole comparison thing. She said, I've got more hair on my arms than the other little girls in class. And what I'm trying to do as a parent, as a mother, is trying to be more just listening and not, because, as parents, we want to go in and fix it and just, oh no, you're fine. And I just kind of just listen and just let her talk about her feelings and let her talk about what was going on. It's hard sometimes to do that. Just like, okay, I'm not going to give an opinion here. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it definitely, it starts really young, particularly for women. Yeah, for sure. It's hard.
I'm a girl dad. I got 3 teenage girls here. It's first off bonkersville, but second off, like, and this is where it's funny. They think that I'm the crazy one when I'm like being rational. Mm-hmm. Like I'm the crazy. I keep being right, and they think that I'm an idiot. So it's so funny when it comes to human behavior. But I'm just watching these girls do their thing, and it's wild how much the emotions will run. But they'll do these things where it's a very obvious societal curse. It's a very obvious judgments have manipulated your thought process. It's very obvious you're trying to fit in and do something that works to make it so other people are approving of you based on their very limited understanding of you. And it could be something as simple as like shave your arms. Mm-hmm. It could be something as simple as wear this type of, makeup. It could be something as simple as your shoes don't look good and they go get these $100 shoes that are just moccasins. I don't know what these Uggs things and stuff. Like some of these things, these girls will get stuff that like that's pool shoes, but they were $150. I'm like, those are pool shoes. Those are dollar store shoes. They're like, no, they're super expensive. I'm like, you guys are getting had, but why? It makes you feel like you fit in. You feel like you're in the popular crowd. You belong. You'll be approved of. And it's like at any cost. And I'm like, the sacrifice is pretty expensive, though. I wish it was just financial, but you're getting rid of any authenticity you have and calling it enhancing.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and I think I'm older, I'm an older woman. And one of the benefits is like the wisdom you gain. And one of the things, like, as I'm older and the more I've just accepted who I am, how I am, my body, I love my body. I love doing mirror work too. I'm at the gym. Ooh, look at that booty. It looks so good, girl. Cheering myself on. So, but one of the things I think, when you gain that wisdom, you understand that it's always going to be something, particularly with women, right? Like when I was in my 20s, big boobs were the thing. Now it's big butts. And like you like, it's never going to be enough. It's never, ever, it's going to change. And who says it's big butts? Who says that? Like, where does this come from? Where does this, we have to question.
Who's the they? Who is
Who's
they
that?
again?
Who says they?
Well, now
I
there is
guess.
a they. Now there is a they category. So I guess there is a. Maybe they
Mm.
are calling the shots. Maybe they are the trendsetters. I don't know. We'll have to ask. I got some friends that are in the they category. I'll ask if they're calling the shots here. Did you guys say butts are in? Okay, now we know where it came from.
Big butts, big butts.
Big butts.
Not
We
just
need
any
big butts
butts.
these days. We need the bigger butts these days until that goes away. So yeah,
Right.
whenever they change their mind.
Right. It's just so, then you just like have to like, well, I like how I am. I like, whatever I got, if it's not the trend, it's like, so be it. Cause
You
in
might be
two
the next
years,
trend though. You could
yeah.
be the next trend.
But yeah. But then you're not. And then what? So this is where I have
This
to
is
practice that self-love and self-acceptance, really.
yeah. Well, now this is where the tricky part, and this is where I think we'll have some fun, is we know the answers, but that's not a solution. There's a gap between the grief and the growth. There's a big gap here that people aren't catching on to. They know the answers, not the solution. Accept yourself, love yourself. Okay, great answer. There's like a bunch of stuff in the way here.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, we wouldn't have to do a journey of self-discovery if it was just like, well, you just go over the bridge. I'm like, you have to build the bridge.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
no,
Yeah. That's the tough part. Yeah.
And so you hang out
Yeah.
with bridge builders, it's a lot faster. But if you're just trying to figure it out and you've never built anything before, you're using like a random rock and then like some paper you found and like there's a little glue, but it's the wrong glue and like some scotch tape. And you're like, this bridge is not holding up very well. I'm like, yeah, it's a tricky bridge there. You're using weird materials.
Or it works for a minute and then you go back to the old way of being and doing and seeing things. Yeah. I mean, it is definitely a process. It's definitely a journey. I do agree that I think if you have people on the outside, right? I have a friend coach and she has a great saying, she says, you can't read the ingredients when you're inside the jar. And I was like, that's so brilliant. You need someone on the outside kind of helping you see a different perspective. And you're right. I think we need those architects to help us build the bridges to becoming, self-actualized, just like, hey, I accept myself. I love myself. I'm okay with who I am. And I'm here to be loved for others. It makes a big difference. So I would like to talk about like my relationship with my ex, because I think that's one of the things that most people get wrong. They think that it's all the ex's fault, right? And it's an impossible relationship to change, because I work with a lot of people who maybe, there's a lot of buzzwords going around and they like to label their exes. And I don't like to use those labels because it really boxes us in. It really keeps us from seeing things from a broader perspective, or seeing it even from our ex's perspective.
Wait a
They might have a
second,
different view.
Terry. Are you saying everyone you've ever broken up with is not a narcissist? Is that what you're saying? Everybody who doesn't do what I tell them to and doesn't do it the way I like and isn't the way I want them to be is a narcissist? Is that what
that word it's killing me. I can't tell you.
If I really wanted them to do everything I want them to do the way I want it to make me happy, and I should be the center of their universe. And if they don't do that, they're a narcissist, Terry.
Yeah.
It's all them.
It's all them. But what's sad to me is that a lot of divorce professionals have jumped on this bandwagon and have then propagated this. And so that's what's really bothersome to me, is because, I'm all about, growth and, we got to make, okay, your marriage didn't work out for the children, but you still have to co-create a different relationship if you've got kids together. Mm-hmm. So all those issues you had in the marriage are just still there. They're probably worse because now you're divorced and you don't even have a goal to try to make it work, but you have to keep your kids in mind. And all this does is just add to that animosity. And it just, what we see is what we focus on. Every mistake they make, we jump on, or we, see, that just proved me right. And I think there's a lot of the ego at play too. The divorce brings out our worst insecurities, and people, see my ex really is a bad dad, and he did this or he doesn't do this and blah, 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 rather than looking at, if we're looking for the good stuff and we're looking for those opportunities for co-parenting and better communication and things like that, I think it would make a huge difference, because my ex and I are really super supportive, and his wife is like my best friend. And people look at us like we are like nuts. And I'm like, listen, I had like the same shitty, crappy, horrible divorce as everybody else. But I really do believe, because I wasn't like labeling him, I was always looking for like, he's a good dad, and like keeping that in mind. And I want my kids' best interests in mind. It would be so much better if people were really looking at things from that mindset, and like looking for opportunities for good communication, and looking for opportunities where that person is really stepping up.
There's a lot of training in this that we're talking about right now. And there's just a few things to point out just before we start going into solutions. Let's just identify more problems together, just to say, like, okay, well, here's patterns that I've seen. Most of what you just said for the ladies comes into the blame, shame, judgment system that right now has perpetuated the power for women. I will judge you, and that makes me the authority, and saying you're the bad one. Whenever I've had women's groups, the first like 2 weeks is me beating out of them that this isn't a blame throwing session. Like, ladies, this is for you. This isn't about how your ex or your husband is a piece of shit. This is you're the problem. You just don't see it. By even calling them a piece of shit, you don't realize that you're just bad talking your partner. You're gossiping. You're the negative. You're not the positive chaos. You're the negative chaos. So ladies, come in blaming. Well, he's not doing what I want, and he's not doing it my way. And why isn't he doing this? And he should be, and he should, and he should, and he should. And you go, hold on, you're shooting all over the place. Just calm down. There's a part you're playing. You trained him. You taught him to do this. You've created a dynamic here. There's a you thing. Now, guys, when they come in, I actually removed blame throwing from the men's side. They don't come in going, well, she's not doing this, and she's not doing that. She's not doing this. Guys come in and go, why can't I make her happy? Why am I not good enough? What am I doing wrong here? I've done everything that I know, and she's even madder now. What is going on? Like, I've done everything I got. I gave her every resource I have. I give her all my time. I give her all my life. I give her all my stuff. And she treats me like an idiot. Like, what am I missing here? I removed the blame thrower thing out of the men's section completely, because they come in with shame stacks, not blame throwing. So women come in and I have to stop them from blaming everybody, because everyone's supposed to love me for who I am. But guys are coming in trying to solve the problem, going, it must be me because it's not working. So when I'm looking at these dynamics, those are the patterns I see by far the most commonly. Are there outliers, and is it absolute? No, there's always those oddballs where it's reversed, but it's far more rare than the commonality of women blame, men shame. Women fall more into excuses, and guys fall more into anger. Women will go more into denial. Guys go more into doubt, and so we see the patterns where I'm like, these are the pieces that are there, and then the fear and anxiety and the depression, those seem common between both. And so it's like, that's just usually when it all goes wrong.
Yeah.
With these pieces, I want to see, like, how are you going? I'm going to navigate how to see things in a way when, like, who's right? He's a bad dad. It's his fault. Well, this is judgment systems of blaming to make it so that you feel better for something you didn't do. You didn't do a good job here. And I almost challenge every single one of these women where, if you're looking back at old you, how empathetic to what he was going through were you?
Right.
Probably non-existent. You weren't going, oh, you're really pissed off today, baby. What's going on with your heart? I'm here to hear. No, you're going, God, he's being really mean today. What a dick. He needs to chill the fuck out. Well, we're just telling him what he needs to do instead of saying, damn, you must be under a lot today, babe.
But that comes from a place of you already being a like whole, fulfilled person who's in that relationship, and you already feel loved. And so you just see someone else's pain, and you recognize that pain is like, there's something going, or their anger is pain, right? So it's taking accountability is like really just key to all of it. I mean, if we can just stop blaming others and stop looking at other people's behavior and how it affects us and look at like how we're showing up or how we're thinking about it and how we are reacting to it, that's a very different process.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really empowering when you go, oh, how am I showing up in this and how can I change it? Whereas when you're a victim all the time, it's very disempowering. And there's a lot of that kind of going on right now. I don't know if we want to get into that, but there's like a lot of like that going on.
Play with it. You can do wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you've opened up here. The bad professionals, listen, they hate me. I'm sure they don't like you because I go right against their stuff. And the difference is my shit works. I'm like, challenge everything as part of our philosophy for the Warriors Way. If it doesn't work, we improve it. But I'm not going, well, then I'll diagnose you and then you'll start acting in according to my diagnosis, or live your life based on what attachment disorder I've given you or what diagnosis I've told you are, and people will change themselves accordingly. Like there's that. But then also you just said a bad word. And I wish it was like cuss word because cuss words are easier. But no, you said a bad word for today. Accountability? You said accountability? Oh, no. No, Terrie. There's a lot of jokes going on with as far as the societal thing for women, where the reality right now for us is that even us growing up, the accountability on women came mostly from other women. Women would check women, no different than guys would check guys. Where do you think Don't Hit a Girl came from? Women made us stop? No, you fucking didn't. Guys made guys stop. That's guys checking guys. Women couldn't make guys stop, or they would have done that a long time ago. Like, no, guys stopped guys. And why were women not overly promiscuous and throwing themselves out there and just hot girl summer and doing that stuff? Because the grandmothers and mothers are like, no, respect yourself, have some values, be a lady. Like, that was women checking women. Well, that stopped. There are no consequences. Bad behavior is glorified. She's just a boss babe now and about her business. And that stuff has made it so that the bad behavior has become regular behavior. Now, when you have to stop gaslighting your introspection, you have to be truthful about the behavior that you're doing. I will not do such things, in which case you said a bad word, accountable. Accountability? Oh, no. And I've watched videos of them going like, all right, ladies, for $10 million, here's what you have to do. And they pull the thing off the table and go, you just have to be accountable. And like, here's just the word accountability is on the table. Like, you just touch the word and be accountable for your things. And they're like, oh, look at the time. I gotta get out of here. I just, anything else but this. And they're like falling down on the way to the table and like crawling and like underneath the table, like, I can't do it. Oh, it's just the ongoing joke right now is like, can you really own what you really just did? Can you own your part? Can you own it? And it seems like one of those things where ladies today are like, nope, I can, there's a lot of things I've talked about this with our 15-year-old. And even when she's in her own shit, it's not her shit. But when everybody else is doing the exact same thing, she knows exactly what that is. And so she said, we're not really good as women with our own truth, but we're really fucking good at everyone else's. We'll call everybody else's stuff out real quick. Well, she's doing that and he's doing this and he's doing this and he's doing that. And you see that person, I know that thing and what's their business? I'm really good at everyone else's truth. Yeah, but aren't you doing the same thing that girl did? Well, I don't know what to call that. No, it's not the same. It's no, it's totally different. And I'm like, you're not really good at your own accountability on your own thing, but you called her out 2 seconds. But you can't do the same thing for you.
Yeah.
How do you grow
and I think that's where things shifted for me, was where I just got sick and tired of blaming everyone, blaming my husband because he didn't love me enough. That was like a big thing, for me. And when you get sick of that, and you start going, okay, what can I do? What am I doing? And, it's just really easy to fall into that. It's easy. There was a time recently in my own relationship when I was like, you're not listening to me. I said this to my husband, and I kind of was like, I stopped for a minute and was like, who's not listening? Like, I am in no way listening or hearing or trying to understand, and sometimes we just get locked into that. And I believe a lot of us just have so much unhealed garbage that we just haven't processed and let go and work through, that it just keeps us stuck.
Mm-hmm. It's called being your best self. No one's doing it on purpose. You talked about like he didn't love me enough, and then we talked about like, did you?
No,
Like,
right,
well, no, I
exactly.
didn't. So again, you're
Exactly.
mad at him, and it's his fault for not doing something that I won't even attempt to do. And he's not listening to me as an unmet need. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
difficult with the needs thing to express needs because,
It
listen,
is.
I'm actually working with multiple coaches on this right now because we've been going through Maslow's bullshit and Max Neef's shit and taking all of these experts, everything from Marshall Rosenberg to Tony Robbins to my own writing to all these things and going, can we get a tool here that actually works?
Mm-hmm.
Because it
Mm-hmm.
seems like the needs category for our own is fine. That's the easy part. But how do you do the relationship one? It seems like nobody can articulate. And that's a different one where you're like, listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
your need is to feel heard.
Yeah.
Do you reciprocate that need at all? Well, I don't give a fuck about his needs. What about me? And that's the most common thing, even in my sections for the comment sections. And I don't know if yours do the same thing. But the ladies, first thing they say is, yeah, well, what about me? I'm like, your guy right now, his heart is broken and he needs to have some healing for his heart. Can you give nurture, compassion, and empathy? And the first sentence is, well, where's mine at? What about me? You go like, wait a second. You want it, but he needs it and you won't give it. And he's the problem. That's our comment section is 97% negativity from women.
Okay.
That's an interesting number because we have a 50-50 audience.
Mm.
Our guys have gotten a lot more bold and going, you're again part of the problem, lady, because instead of going like and there's good women, don't get it wrong. It's not just only women, but in the negativity, like who's doing the negative comments, we're looking and it's like all women. There's only a few white knights out there who created a couple issues, but it's very rare that it's a guy. And we're like, why, ladies, if you have this freedom? Why, ladies, if you have the microphone? Why, ladies, if you can express your opinion? Is it coming out in a negative way? Why are you the problem team? What's going on, ladies? Step up. You got the mic. You got it. You can
But
be
don't
part
you
of that.
think there's this like societal expectation of how men should be? And for a man to be vulnerable and like you just said, like his heart is hurting, like for you to say that and then be like warrior, like that just, it's like cognitive dissonance there. Like,
I really want you to do this, please, Terrie. Can you please, I honestly do. I really openly want you to do this. Can you please give me what you believe the concept is for like what a man's supposed to be, even societally, and then what the warrior concept is supposed to be also. I actually want your opinion. I truthfully do. What's the list look like for this?
Yeah. Well, I think societally, men are supposed to be strong and protective, providing. And I when I listen to the warrior ways, like the TikToks and the videos and the podcasts and things, there's that, but it's also this openness and vulnerability. But so there's a contrast there because I think there's a misconception that vulnerability equates to weakness, and it's not. When we're our most vulnerable, that's when we rise up, and it's when we're strong. When we can just connect with each other. But men are not allowed to be vulnerable.
Well, give me more list. I got strong, protector, provider, open, vulnerable. Give me more of what do you think we're supposed to do? What are us guys supposed to be doing here? What's the list look like? Like when I met you, I thought Rick was going to be like, and this is what I think the list would be.
I thought Rick was going to be funny.
Oh, shit.
You definitely have a masculine energy, open, communicative, loving. I don't know if this is the warrior way, but I would love to add nurturing to a list of masculine qualities because I think men can be nurturers, and I don't know, that's not seen as like a positive in our society necessarily.
What do you think that is? Why do you think of a guy was nurturing? What do you think? Like, as far as giving an idea of what you think of nurturing.
I think it's because it's like seen as a feminine trait, and anything feminine is not as good.
If two people give
Men
a
are not
hug,
supposed to be feminine.
if two people give a hug, if a guy gives a girl a hug, or you hug your husband or something like that, is he being weak? Isn't that nurturing?
Yeah.
A hug is nurturing. Holding someone is nurturing. So I'm just curious on how is a hug weakness?
I mean, it isn't to me.
I agree.
I just think
I'm even trying to think societally. Like the only way that something like that becomes bad is if A, he starts getting gropey or inappropriate, or if she starts being highly judgmental and defensive, even from something innocent. Because I've seen guys who are very like not over the line, and her offensiveness or offendedness has now made it so a simple thing like, hey, all right, good hug, I'll see you later, have a good day, is like, he is inappropriate and groped me. Even to the point where the Keanu Reeves reference of he won't touch a person at all in the photos. Like you can see his hand hovering like far away from the girl to be like, you won't even be able to use your judgmental offendedness to say that I was inappropriate when I wasn't making any advance at all. Yeah. So like nurturing, well, it seems like it's not that guys being nurturing is not a thing. It seems like shaming nurture from a man is a thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Ladies, that's you. Don't shame the thing you want, because then when you have a guy who's like, finally, a guy I do want to nurture, you're like, you did tell me I'm a piece of shit for doing that. You know that, right? You may be training your guys to be less loving because you're mean to guys for being loving. Now, there are inappropriate guys. Remember, not all men are warriors. There are some slimy dudes out there. They don't hang out with me. They don't like me because I call their shit out.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying all men are loving, nurturing creatures. I think we have the propensity to. I think we're born to, but we're trained to be whatever we become. And there's only two kinds of people. You're either trained or untrained. And so the way they are taught is the way they become, whether it be selfish or manipulative or Machiavellian or, monstrous, whatever they do. But there's a different thing here for this nurturing, which I would even get into. Like, do you believe that men are supposed to be empathetic?
Yeah, I think so.
We can care about somebody's feelings. We can go, your feelings are important. We can really be empathetic without even sympathy. Like, I feel bad for you. Like, no, I feel for you.
But again, I don't know that we're teaching our boys to relate on that kind of a level.
Oh, there's ladies right now who have become men's activists because they're catching that, hey, you're shaming the shit out of the guys and making them less. And I have a son. And if your thing works, my son's life is forfeit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm catching that if you actually pull this shame system off, that men are all pieces of shit for being men, when my 7-year-old becomes a man, he'll be a suicidal one. I don't want this. We need to make it so we pull the pendulum back a little bit. Ladies were given opportunity within our lifetime. Terry, within our lifetime, we've seen the pendulum where women went from like, I don't really have all that say, to now you have all the say. You can say whatever say you'd like. The rights are now equal. You can speak anything you'd like to speak. You have power. You can start your own business. You can, be a doctor, be a lawyer. You can be anything you want. All the rules have all been reversed. You can, no limits. You now get the shots. And if you got leadership, you see women wanting power, but are they leading? This is the part where it's like, I've seen too many women who get power and then create chaos. And especially women comparing themselves still, that comparison curse. Well, when women gets the leg up or gets power against even a younger girl or a more beautiful or attractive woman, I have seen women go on a true mission of destruction, especially reputation, demolition, or absolute demolishing of that girl. And I go, ladies, you wanted opportunity for power. You said if you had the keys, if you were driving, you would show nurture, you would show compassion, you would show empathy, you would show love, you would show men all the things that we have fucked up, and guys were total dicks through the history, especially towards women. There is no argument that there are monstrous behaviors towards women. No argument. But if we had the opportunity, we would do it better. And it's like, all right, ladies, well, we can accept we were shit in the bed on this one. Take the reign. Let's see how it goes. And right now the jury is going, oh, this doesn't look good. It's getting worse.
Do you think there's a conscious choice in those circumstances that you talked about? Or was that just, I don't know how to deal with this. And now,
how does
again, because of that comparison thing, that they just did what they're known to do.
You're in the group of trailblazers. How many women mentors of how to be an effective leader were there before you? Like effective, like no rules. Like they've been doing this for a long time and they know how it works. How many mentors did you have growing up of women who actually do it right? Well, none. You guys are in the first generation that like you have to kind of figure it out. Which is a cool transition thing, but boy, are you the guinea pig phase.
Right.
That's why you see the ladies having almost dual personalities when it comes to like my work me and my home me. When I'm in work mode, I'm almost a different personality type. And then when I go to mom mode, it's a different human being. You're like, well, this is how they've adapted to like the masculine energy or whatever, which I almost call it drag queening is what I call it. So like, listen, I've been to drag shows. They're fucking hysterical. They're a good time. But if you look at a drag queen, the idea is it's guys who dress like women, but way over the top. The eyelashes are 10 times longer. The hair is humongous. Everything is, the nails are bigger. Everything's more colorful. Everything's way over the top. It's very embellished. And that's the idea of a very embellished version of it. Well, I think that females in the workspace do that version of men. It's like way over the top aggressive. This boss babe thing is just mean lady thing. It's like, that's not how the guys are doing it. like Bob's still Bob when he leaves here. It's still the same Bob, but you're very different.
So do you work with a lot of like women who are in corporate worlds who are doing that? Yeah,
I've got one in the house. Yeah, there's different personalities that happen. But I've seen it all through because I've worked a lot of different jobs, a lot of different careers. And it's a very similar thing. I've even seen to the point where like I'll see a woman switch. Like I remember one of the most notable ones, I knew a woman who was a recruiter. Like she would do recruiting. So she would read somebody's resumes and say what job, would work best. Well, we were all out. It was like a St. Patrick's Day thing and I'm an artist. And so someone gave me a marker and I'm just drawing tattoos on people's arms or whatever. And so I'd be like, what tattoo you want? And I would draw a green tattoo on their shoulder, like just doing person after person. This girl comes up and she's like, I want a tattoo. And I'm like, all right. So I'm drawing a thing on her arm. And I'm like, what do you do? What's your job? And she's like, I do recruiting. I'm like, oh, that sounds very interesting. And she went from fun, cool, St. Patrick's Day over to work mode. And it was like, what's your job? This, what's this thing? What's that thing? Blah, 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 the energy just shifted. I'm like, who are you? Like, what was the person I was just talking to? You are a different thing. And they switched into a work mode. And I'm like, that's a different human, almost to the point where mannerisms, the eyes, everything is different. And you're like, that's who you think you're supposed to be to survive in this. It's a man's world. Like it's who you're supposed to be. I'm like, at what point do you have accountability, authenticity, truth, know thyself? At what point when you have to wear a mask that makes you pretend to be something totally different? How are you supposed to be empathetic, nurturing, kind, love, and the compassion aspect of life when you have to be something that's so over the top that's not even authentic or even relative to the masculine energy even that guys have? I'm a highly masculine male, and I find it off-putting. I'm like, this isn't even how guys do it. This is, if you were a dude, you'd be an asshole.
Yeah. It's a protective mode, fear-based.
Right? So how can women, but I would also argue there's different types of leaders and people can lead from the middle and be very supportive. And that's still a good leader. I know women who have figured it out, who can lead from the middle. How can I support you? What do you need? I got you. What do you need? I'll get you 3 of them. What do you got over here? I got you. Don't worry about it. Very effective without having to be over the top, drag queenish, over the top where they have to hyper embellish their personality. But you're in the generation of like, we're figuring it out. And let's just say there's a majority dropping the ball. There may be some of you who we got it. It's working. We figured it out. But you're with the ladies now. We're you doing your best self is sabotaging everything in your existence and calling it control.
Mm-hmm.
But you are the chaos. But not positive chaos, not excitement and surprise and happiness and joy. No, you're the destruction. You're the anger. You're the negativity. You're the demolition. That's not the chaos that makes it so that we can have a working team here.
So that's a pretty heavy question because, where does that come from? It's definitely fear-based protection, or a projection of what you think you have to be in order to succeed.
I would argue it's denial.
Yeah.
I think the core for almost I haven't worked with a woman yet who doesn't have denial as their core foundational piece for their protection system. That's why when you said accountability, authenticity, and acceptance, these are the triple A's of no. Because denial is going to protect you from having to have the consequences of the reality of who we are, which is why my hypothesis that most women gaslight their introspection until they have a rock bottom moment like you had, where they go, my bullshit is bullshit and I'm sick of my own bullshit. Until you have that moment to accept the authenticity of who you really are and have the courage to be you, even if others don't accept it, until you can get to that moment, you're living a lie and calling it my best self.
Yeah.
And that's the game right now, ladies. So any of you can go, I'm humble enough to go, you know what? I got to work on me. And it's not just he's not loving me enough. He didn't do it my way. He's not listening to me. But maybe if I were to be an authentic leader, I would bring the things to the table that I say women do. Maybe I will be the nurture. Maybe I will be compassion. Maybe I will be empathy. Maybe I will be listening to understand. Maybe I will be the support that makes it so that people can reach higher limits. Maybe I will be that leader. Maybe I'll be that instead of having to be lead from the front by knocking everyone else down.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Warrior, thank you so much for being a part of the information that we have. And you're part of our story as we are a part of yours. It's very much an honor to be able to connect with each other. If you want to know more or you want to get started with working with me or working with our warriors so that you can begin your path to authenticity, strength, leadership, and accountability, this is the way. Together, we are way stronger. Now you get to choose. Do you go forward or keep doing what you've always done? If you stay where you're at, hey, click on some of the stuff and follow what it is. We got motivational stuff. We've got podcasts. We've got more things. Just subscribe and do the stuff and we'll keep you updated. But if you want to start going in, start jumping into what our programs offer and start your journey and being the hero in your own story.
And it takes a lot of courage to be willing to do that. I mean, it takes a lot of courage. And like you said, it takes a lot of, shit, I was really just, not showing up the way, I wanted all of this and it takes a lot of courage to accept the fact that maybe we're the ones that are the problem,
Who would you want it to be, though? This is where it's fun when I work with women. I'm like, well, do you really want someone else to be the problem or do you want to be the problem? And most of them go, I don't want to be the problem. I'm like, but who would you want in control of the solution? You want somebody else to hopefully figure it out one day? Or would you like it if oh, that's me. I can fix that right now. Who do you want to be in control of the solution team for that? Do you want you or somebody else to be in control of it? Especially when it comes to your happiness, your joy, your forgiveness, your grace, your love. Who do you want to be in control? You're like, oh my gosh, me. Well, then I'm glad you're the fucking problem.
Right. Yeah. But until you show people that, they don't get it. Like I say this all the time, like so many people, like they're, because, I work with divorce people, like, I want to go to court. I want to, I'm going to tell that judge and the judge is going to see my side. I'm like, no, you really don't want a stranger making decisions for your children. Like, you don't want the government in your family. Like, you want to be in control of that. And until you kind of let people see that, like, oh, it would be much better if I resolve this, if I take accountability, if I take responsibility for the choices that we're making during this process, it will be way better. Because I can't tell you how many people I see who they just, well, the judge didn't listen. Yeah, they're not going to. Like, that what you think will happen is not happening when it comes to like what the divorce process is. They don't care. They don't care. They're going to rule by like whatever standard it is, whatever it is. Like, they just go by the books. And yeah, he's talking about an archaic system too. The judicial system is an archaic system that has not caught up with modern times. In modern families, and marginalized families in particular, get shit. And so you want to take control. And you're right. I think helping people to see, like, hey, you're the problem. That's a good thing, because then you're the solution. And it's hard, but it's really hard. I have to tell you, Rick, it's hard for me, because when you're in a sea of like divorce professionals telling you, yes, your ex is a narcissist. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I mean, this is like one, it's like 1% of like all personality, diagnoses ever. Like, it's this most extreme one. And that's the thing. I'm like, everybody's kind of narcissistic during divorce, because it's a process where you become survival. Like, so you're just surviving and you're trying to like grasp onto what you can. And so we're all a little bit like crazy during the process, and it's what the process is. So where we have to really, show up is like, okay, I'm the problem here. How am I contributing to this issue? And what can I do to make it better? But it's really hard. I feel like in what I'm doing right now, I slowly am starting to see some leaders kind of like not using that language or talking about why, ooh, this is really a bad thing that's going on when it comes to this word labeling our exes, because it's bad for the children too. It's bad when you're constantly berating your children's parent. Like, I think some people just lose perspective. And I can't believe the shit that people post on social media. I am absolutely shocked. Like, this is public. Anyway, screenshot this and like show it to a judge.
When given freedom, what do you do with it? When given all the opportunities to do whatever you want, what do you do with it? When you can say anything without consequence, what do you do with it? Well, and this is there's a one of the main foundational pillars for the Warrior's Way is an Epictetus quote, where your circumstances do not define you, they reveal you to yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the main ways that when I use like my tools and I use the things that I've created to go, who are you, where are you, and what are you doing? You're revealing you to yourself by the way you handle situations. And so if you're the person who can't wait to destroy another person publicly and you can't wait to share misery with the world, you've revealed you to yourself. This is you. This is how you handle situations. Do you see you? You're that person. The one that you've talked shit about for when, oh, look at Sherry just posted this thing. Look at what she did. Oh my God. And you're like, yeah, but you do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know better, but you blame throw them because they're the bad one, but we gaslight ourselves. Like, well, I'm not doing it like she did. That's different when I do it. You revealed you to you. You're
but
the problem.
My ex is really the problem. Maybe it's not your ex, but it's.
Of course. You chose them. You chose them. You trained them.
Right. Yeah.
You picked them. You trained them. You taught them how to treat you. You didn't hold a boundary, and you treated them in a way that you wouldn't like to be treated. It must be all them. You were unhealthy. You chose another unhealthy person, and somehow they're supposed to be the healthy one for you. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I don't do relationships, is because I've been responsible for more breakups than I have been responsible for more saves. The reason why is because when you level yourself up to be healthy, and your person that you chose when you were unhealthy is still who they are because they haven't leveled up anything, I watch the guys who I work with go, please, baby, what can I do to support you? Please level up, because I'm on this upward trajectory and I'm getting stronger, smarter, better, more values, better principles, better version of me. This isn't just a finance thing. This is the type of man that I am for my standards and the way that I operate and my honor and my strength and my protection, provisions, the way I preside. I'm being better. And baby, I'm outgrowing my old relationship because I outgrew the old me. Are you coming with me? Or are you still waiting for a guy who is at my old level? And these ladies are like, well, why can't you just love me for me? You go, well, baby, you don't. I want to, but you can't. And now I'm seeing somebody who doesn't do reciprocity anymore. Somebody who's in a take relationship because they want me to provide more so you can just take without returning anything. You're creating chaos and drama and pain and bringing your wounds and your abandonment and all of your stuff and just put on my doorstep. And I'm like, well, baby, that's yours. You're the problem. They're like, I can't be the problem. I'm like, but that makes you the solution. You're like, the solution is you should shut up. And you go, wow, maybe I'm not in a healthy relationship anymore. And maybe I need to go. Maybe I need a boundary. Maybe this is a non-negotiable, that I'm in an abusive relationship because I was at one point abusive myself.
Yeah. 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 A lot of people got to do a lot of inner work to work on that, to understand it's about us loving ourselves, us giving ourselves what we need and having those boundaries and fulfilling ourselves instead of expecting the partner to do that.
Sure.
It's
Can I call something out for you? Like teamwork to teamwork here. I feel this vibe for you. So I have a thing for the warrior types, like heart, mind, body, soul. And it's a yin yang. You got mind and body, which is actions. It's tactics and actions, but then you've got your spirit and you've got your heart side. And the way that you speak is very heart side, especially inner child work and stuff like this. You seem like a heart side warrior. And I think people confuse heart and spirit for weakness. And I'm like, no, I've met some heart side warriors that are fucking incredibly powerful. This is not a weak side. Do not think that fire is weak. Like, no, that's powerful. And so you speak very heart side, but I see you doing this back and forth between like the mind and the heart thing. And I see a struggle with a lot of people trying to almost in a way explain the emotion. And it's really difficult to do because you're like, these feelings are important. These feelings matter. The inner child stuff matters. And being authentic and in who you really are, you have to go into that. And those are very heart side things. But we have to try to bridge the gap with all right, what tactics will work here for you to take the mind into the heart? And they fight.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And I agree. In my program, there's multimodalities and different things work for different people. I agree with you. It is bridging that gap, and it does start like what you said. I would even go one step. It's not just accountability. It starts with the awareness. It's like
Correct.
that first step of oh, okay, I've got the awareness. I have got to do something. I've got to shift this. And then taking accountability of how can I show up differently? But yeah, you definitely have to bridge that gap. And I think that I don't see a lot of men. You know what? I'm gonna take that back, because the men that I've worked with, the majority of the men that I've worked with that come into my coaching programs have done a lot of work, I would say a lot of them have done sober work. So they've done some inner work and some inner healing, and they're just ready to go to that next step. And they recognize that, but it begins with, taking accountability. And that's really important.
Have you noticed the guys have a lot less trouble with it?
No, I think for me in my programs, I feel like both the men and women come in, I'm ready. I've done a lot of work, but now I'm ready for that next step.
I'm noticing that pattern with female coaches is that a lot of times you're choosing or working with the women who are I've already hit rock bottom. I'm ready. Which is a very, very small percentage of women who go like, I'm humble enough to take it on myself. I'm done with my own bullshit. Like, that's a minority amongst the women. Like that I would say. So like, that's where your primary clients are the ones who are like, I've already eaten the humble pie and now I'm ready to do the work. Like a majority of the women I've worked with are like, well, it's all him. It's not me. It can't be me. I can't be humble pie. Fuck that. I'm not eating that. Like,
that's interesting. Okay.
Well,
are the majority of the women that you're in, are they already in relationships?
Well, generally, yes. And then, or just have a tough time with what they were in the relationship. So they would choose terrible guys because they were not healthy at all. And so unhealthy women choosing unhealthy men. I'm like, why were you shopping clearance or or not layaway, but like the lost and found? Why are you shopping there? Like shop premium. Like you have the ability. You're like, no, I just thought that my worth was the lost and found. I went to go get a rescue. I'm like, those ones are fucked up though. That one was beaten and abused. I'm like, I'm not saying they don't deserve love, but do you know how to train a rescue? No, I just think I'll just love them. Well, those ones are gonna bite the shit out of you.
Yeah.
That one's got issues. You sure you're ready? And they're not ready.
Yes, and I think, not sure if men do this, but I definitely think women do this. That a lot of women, we're generalizing too,
of course,
but project. They see the potential of a person rather than the reality. I'm like, I see the potential of this guy. Yeah, but that's not who that guy is. Like that's the thing.
Well, one of my guys I trained said this, Eddie Thomas, I'm going to throw it out there. He said, don't fall. And it's like having a gambling addiction where when you're wearing the rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like regular old flags.
Yep. Yeah.
And so that's why you have your friends and family going, you know what, Terry, I don't like him. He's not a good dude. This is bad. There's red flags everywhere. He also tried to sleep with your sister. And you're like, no, it's fine. Maybe he was just tired. It's not a big deal. He's very nice. He's just handsy because he came from a loving family. And you're like, I don't think that's what that was though, Terry. You know, like those things where the rose-colored glasses make bad things good things.
But I talk about that is that wound. I call it the abandonment wound. You know, I don't know what you're calling it, but it's that void, and that person fills that void that you're willing to overlook that. Like, so I had a client and she had, you know, she was adopted. She was also just very different. Her family was very like conservative, religious, and she was very free spirited and, you know, tattoos all over. So she was just like a free spirit, you know, so she never really felt accepted. And wouldn't you know, she was dating this guy and, you know, she saw the behavior, right? I called her a data collector too, because like, you know, they just collect data, they see it, but they just, well, I need more. I need more proof that this is what this is. And I was like, okay, well, are you a data collector? Because once you see it, you should just know that that's what it is. So she'd say, oh, I'm breaking up with this guy because like if their actions and their words don't align, there was a certain expectation she had. I think it was, he wasn't dependable or reliable, or he wouldn't show up and stuff. So, you know, the behavior was there that he wasn't, you know, it wasn't a good fit. And cut to, she's mentioned a date with him again. I was like, wait a minute, I thought you were breaking up with him. I thought we were ending this. And then when we did the inner work, he just made her feel so accepted. She could just be herself. And once, there you go, you got the glasses. And
I couldn't see it, but now he seems really great. I couldn't see it before, but I had to put my rose-colored glasses on, and he actually seems really wonderful, and there's so much potential here, and I think he's the one, Terry. I think he's the one.
And then once she does her own work and fill that void and accepts herself and you know, works on that, then she's not looking that far outside of herself, and then she'll see the red flags and know, you know, I don't have to give up who I am for someone else, or give up my needs, or give up my standards or my boundaries for someone else.
Well, she probably doesn't know what they are. She's just trying to find her acceptance from somebody else, or her significance from people who will accept her. Here's a 3-part challenge on that thing that I want to give to you. For my men's video, for like, what are the 3 men's basic needs, was hungry, horny, appreciation. That's us guys. We're monkeys. We're easy. Like, feed us, fuck us, and be really like, I appreciate you, babe. You're the best. Like, we'll do anything for you. We gotcha. We're very simple creatures. For ladies, it's less glamorous. I wish it was like fashion designers or some shit, but it's not. It's it comes, the first one is reassurance, safety, security in all aspects, financial, physical, like emotional. I want safety and security with you. I want to make sure I feel good and safe. I want that. Next is approval and acceptance, but that's less from the guy and more from other women than it is guys. And so when you're looking for that approval and validation from some other source or outside source, that's a pretty, women seem like they get caught in that way easier with the Jones effect than the guys do. Why do you think most advertisement is geared towards women and not men? Even the ones for men are geared for the woman for the man.
Yeah.
You know, well, it's because women will be more susceptible to the approval or acceptance aspect of it than guys will. We're far more disagreeable. And then the last part is the hypergamy aspect of it. And this is what you're talking about with her too, which is, how did you choose this guy? What's the criteria that you used? And is it authentic criteria, or is it just what you think it could be criteria? And so it's way less glamorous to go reassurance, acceptance, and hypergamy. Well, that's not a very cool billboard. Not like hungry, horny appreciation. That's way easier. So when I look at this aspect of her, is like, I'm going to get approval because I didn't feel significant. I didn't feel like I could be who I am. I always felt like a black sheep. So give me another one who doesn't fit in, who's odd and weird and does weird stuff. And that makes us bound. We are both odds. We are both uniquely us together, the trauma bonds. You know what I went through because I had hard times. So, and you had hard times. We must have a lot in common. It's like, well, if you're fucked up and they're fucked up, how are you expecting them to not be fucked up?
Right.
Kind of,
yeah.
The concept
It's a relationship.
Of like, he's a bad boy. He don't listen to nobody. You can't fuck with him. He's so strong. He's so rebel. You can't, uncontainable. He's an apex. He's a badass, right? Well, I want that bad boy to be a really good guy. I'm like, well, his business card says I don't listen to anybody and I'm going to fuck all your friends. It says it on his resume. First thing, I will try to sleep with everybody who moves. Do you value loyalty? Because this one doesn't do that. Yeah, but he's so tough. He's so strong. I'm like, yeah, we may have to go into some values here that are further than that, though. Because do you want somebody who's going to make sure you really feel safe and secure in all elements here, or just nobody fights him? Like, what are you looking for here? What is she like about this guy? And I bet if you go through the list, you go like, you do know half of those aren't real, right?
Yeah.
Those are maybes. Those are could be's. Someday. Possibly. We're bargaining. We're in a bargaining system. You want to know what's interesting? I don't think a lot of people understand bargaining. Like, it's part of our grieving systems. But it's one of the most sly. It's up there with denial. Very tricky. Bargaining systems are the people-pleasing aspect of things. It gets into the compromise yourself. It gets into unrealistic expectations, things that just don't exist, but I wish it would. You know, and a lot of times we'll fall in love with the potential aspect, but we don't really think about that as like a potential curse. But bargaining is connected to fear. Well, I wouldn't think that, because bargaining is like, wouldn't it be great if, and the white picket fence, or if I could talk to my grandmother who passed away again, or if I could only do this, and if that, and if this, and if that. You're like, there's a lot of ifs in there. You didn't notice the ifs? Well, doesn't fear have those too? Like, if this goes wrong, and if that happened to be terrible, and if they do this, and if they do that. I'm like, a lot of ifs in these. You didn't notice the commonality here? But the difference is if something you're afraid of doesn't happen, how do you feel? Feel good. Like, I was scared. It didn't happen. That feels good. Well, bargaining is the fantasy of if it went really great, and if only they were so good to me, and if only we were happily ever after. Well, if that doesn't happen, which happens about as much as the fear side, well, how do you feel when that fantasy isn't real? Well, now I feel devastated. I feel horrible. But they're both on creativity and imagination scales. They're both on what ifs.
Yeah.
This also means they're beaten the same way too, because they're not real.
yeah, there's a lot. We are capable of making up a lot of realities in our own minds.
It's a superpower.
It's true. We're good at that.
Yeah. I go all over the place, Terry. You're catching me now. Yeah. Rick goes like that. But
I think a lot of when I work, that's one difference between men and women. Men struggle more with like letting go and regret and the bargaining.
we get
But
caught
I
in,
think it's because
anger more.
Hmm?
We get caught in anger more.
But I meant in terms of divorce. In terms of divorce, when there's a divorce going on, I think the reason why men struggle after the divorce is because a lot of women, 80% of women file for divorce. So they've done a lot of that grieving process before the marriage officially ended, and where men are just like, wait, what's happening? And so they get stuck. They get stuck in a lot of bargaining. If only I'd done this, or if only I'd done that.
Well, look at the compassion, ladies. The ladies. Golden rule of this thing. How exciting would you be if he took the last year of not really loving you and pretending so that way he can do a coup de grace and destroy you? How exciting is that relationship sound? Well, it doesn't sound very nice, does it? That doesn't sound good. If I was your husband and I'm just setting up behind the scenes, making sure that I get everything I want. You're completely destroyed. I get all the stuff. I get the kids. I get the home. I get the car. I get all the stuff. I'm setting you up for failure, all the while pretending to be the happy husband until one day you come home from work with divorce papers and everything's gone. And I go, or all your stuff's out on the front lawn. And I'm like, you're out. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? And I'm like, this relationship it's been dead for a year. How exciting is that, ladies? Does that sound cool? Like, oh my God, that would be devastating. That would be horrible. That would be, what an asshole. What a monster. I'm like, well, what do we call it when we do it?
Well, I don't know that women are premeditating like that. I just think that they've come to terms that the relationship is not working sooner than men do.
No, I will argue. I have watched when women start getting into shape again and they start changing their life and they start checking out of the relationship and they start getting into their own things. Women know way, way sooner. It's very premeditated. Women are safety security. You're going to have to be you can't just wing it, especially when your provider is the only source that you've got for most of your safety security. No, you're going to be setting up for your alimony. You're setting up for, I'm setting up. I would argue very much that whenever I watch a woman go, oh, this relationship isn't going well, they don't just throw the match on it and walk out. Need safety security. I better have a plan here. Like, that's my, what I've seen more commonly is like I've seen girls setting up way in advance. I've also seen sometimes them doing their work setting up has also saved the relationship because they realized it was them. I've seen that happen too.
Yeah.
But there is a premeditation. I would be hard pressed that it's that common that women are so impulsive that as soon as they go like, oh, wow, we had a bad day, I'm just done with this. And then they just have no plan at all. Are there ones like that? Sure. But is it that common?
No, I don't think it's common. I don't think it's like that women are setting up. I think that setting up, it's more, I just feel like men, a lot of men, not all men, are just in denial that the relationship is over. They just become complacent with a relationship that is just meh. That's like not working.
Women trained him. He wasn't always like that. He was picked for a reason. There was a reason he was chosen. There was a reason he was the forever guy. There was a reason. He was that thing at some point in time.
Yes. Hopefully, maybe, sometimes.
Don't say
sometimes.
But don't say yes.
At least in your head, you think he is.
Right, but don't say yes forever to a guy who doesn't have any traits that are like, that's what I want. That's
right,
you.
Right.
If this guy has never been anything that shows like I really am loyal, strong, protective, providing, I'm really the guy. If this is your forever person, he said, I do forever, all the vows. But he never had any of the traits for that. That's you. Why'd you pick that one? Mm-hmm. Why'd you say I do forever to a guy who doesn't have any of the traits that you admire? Well, that's you. You did that. You shouldn't have said yes to that one. That doesn't make any sense. That's you.
Right.
Now, if he did have all those traits and then stopped, what happened? And I'd be hard pressed. There wasn't, at least because I'm on the guy's side. We're like, dude, she just bitched and complained every time I did it. She just said, fuck it, I'll just do it. And just said, go sit on the couch. And I'm like, all right, that's what you want. I just started doing what she said. She started just going, I hate how you fucking fold the towels. Like, all right, then you fold the towels. Do it your way then. Fine, I won't do it. And then after enough of the nagging and complaining, he's like, I don't do shit because she just complains about everything that I do. So why should I even be trying anymore? Anything I put effort towards just gets ridiculed. Well, you trained him. Well, he doesn't do anything anymore. He's just meh. I'm like, you told him to not do shit and you complained when he did. Now he's meh. Didn't you teach him that?
All right, Rick, I got to push back a little bit on this one. I got to push back. So should women just lower our standards because like you're only going to do it half-assed? I mean, I'm just kind of pushing back a little bit on your theory there, because listen, I mean, I think we're oversimplifying the dynamics of marriage and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think like at some point, like men do need to step up and, take initiative and, I don't know.
No, for sure. So, all right, we got the standards, him being half-assed, and then he needs to take initiative. Should I be lowering my standards here? Maybe you should be raising your encouragement. Guys pick women because they're like, that's my best cheerleader. She makes me feel like I can reach the clouds. She makes me feel like I can do anything. Like she's my support that makes me feel like there's nothing that we can't do together. That's how it starts. That's why we pick our girl. But there's something with a complacency on both sides, because I'm not saying that all men just stay this chivalrous, amazing, outgoing guys. At some point, they get complacent also. But what does it look like? It looks like lazy. It looks like disengaged. It looks like negligent, right? Well, women go the other way. The more safety, security, and more things that they have, it seems like they get more upset. They get more naggy, more pushy, more like just upset and angry and resentful. It's like, wait a second, you're shitting on the blessings right now. Let's just take a look at what we got. In which case, should I be lowering my standards because he's doing things half-assed? If you want things done a certain way, that's your particular. Do it your way. And if he wants things a certain way, that's his particular. Have it do it his way. But maybe a little bit of that acceptance piece will make it so it's not an argument. And maybe we can have agreements to make it so, like, if you like the dishes put away a certain way, well, I'll wash them, you put them away.
Yeah.
If you want them folded, the towels folded a certain way, well, I'll wash the towels, you fold them. Now we're a team again.
That's what I was going to say, but there's the disconnect.
Mm-hmm. I
think it is practicing a level of acceptance that, hey, this person isn't going to do things my way. And also
that's the
compromise.
My way is the dangerous word.
My
way. This isn't team talk.
Right. I mean,
you're not doing it my way. It's like, oh, you're the authority now. Oh, you're the boss now. Oh, your way is the way. We stop being a team when you need it your way.
Right. But I think you're right in that there seems to be a disconnect. Right. I think people forget. I think this is we forget we're a team because we get caught up in our own stuff. And so then there becomes this thing where, like you said, it just the level of resentment increases, then the level of him becoming disengaged. And the more he becomes disengaged, the more resentful and nasty she becomes.
Correct.
And again, it's all about like working on, how can we get both of our needs met? What are some things that we can be a team?
Here's the tough part. What was her job at the beginning? Was it bitch and complainer or cheerleader? Well, originally she was the best cheerleader. That's why I chose her forever. She made me feel like the fucking best. Well, at what point did it change? Because guys do what you cheer them on to do. But the more you disregard, the more you complain, the more you go like, well, it wasn't done the way I wanted to, my way, the less they're going to be like, I want to fight for you. If you start taking your guy's kneecaps out, he stops fighting for you. Well, I don't want to be accountable for that because he should be stepping up. He should be standing up. You hit him in the kneecap, though. You're kneecapping the guy that you want to stand up, and you're the reason he's doing it. How conflicting for this guy.
It is conflicting, but I don't think that men are communicating that. I just think that
Men who are isolated, men who don't have mentors, men who aren't taught the way, men who don't even know they can be warriors.
right.
The only influence that these guys have, and this is a very important sentence, the only influence and the only person that they want happiness, the only person they want to feel joy and connected, the only person they want intimacy and love, the only person that matters is their girl, and how important her opinion is. And what opinion is she giving is also important. And as soon as she's the nagging, complaining one, the most important resource in his life does not approve of him. He's not good enough. He's a problem, and he doesn't do anything fucking right. What stand up for yourself thing? What stand up and do things is he supposed to have when the one person he would do it for is his hardest critic? He doesn't have a pack. He doesn't have the guys to lean on. He doesn't have good mentorship. He doesn't have the brotherhood. He doesn't have that stuff. Do you know, I have hundreds of guys when they come in and they go, I can't believe that what you built exists. We have all these guys who get together, and I'm talking about the baddest ass dudes, you know, MMA fighters, strong men, police officers, soldiers, Marines. We all get together, Navy SEALs, you name it. We get together and we do have that open vulnerability, that heart, that empathy. I love you, bro. I'm here for you. Man, that's tough. What do we do to serve you? How can I have your back? That's the thing your girl is supposed to do. I even made a joke that most of my guys are emotionally cheating with the brotherhood, because my guys are the only ones who seem to give a fuck. My girl stopped caring. And so, man, when I go, man, I'm really struggling. And the guys go, bro, I'm here for you, man. That's got to be tough, man. How can I love on you and make sure you get through that? They're like, dude, finally someone who hears me. Someone who's listening now. Someone who even cares that my heart hurts. Thanks, man. Now, if you're going to tell me that's not warrior shit, apparently you don't know what a warrior is.
Well, I agree with you in terms of, I agree, actually. I do feel like men need mentors and brotherhoods. Like, I mean, there's a lot of research that shows that like successful marriages have partners, and particularly men who have outside male friendships are actually very successful. So there's actually research to back that up. But I'm going to kind of push back a little bit here, challenge you again, Rick, because again, you're kind of like, I feel like there's a little bit of blame on the women when we're kind of coming full circle here to the beginning of what our discussion on. Isn't it about I'm the problem, so I'm the solution? Shouldn't the man say, what am I doing that's letting my woman down here? How can I show up differently?
That's what they do.
Okay.
That's what every guy who walks in, it's the first question.
Right.
It's the first question. You're not wrong. It's the first question. What am I doing wrong here? Everything that I do is complained about. What am I doing wrong? And let's do accountability on both sides. If he's missing the mark or he's not stepping up or not doing his thing, we'll talk to him about it. Like, bro, you're not even doing your job. Like, shit. Yeah, I did stop doing that. Why'd you stop doing your job? Because she told me I'm a piece of shit at it. And I'm like, well, where's her accountability? Baby, stop chopping your dude's legs off. Stop tearing your dude down. Don't do that. No. If you want him to reach great heights with you and carry you with him, don't hit him in the kneecap. Don't do that. Yeah, but why isn't he just like, there's too many factors here. How many expectations are we putting on somebody that they need to be what you want without ever assessing what are your needs, who are you, and what are you bringing to the table here? Because we got a lot of princesses waiting for princes, but there's a lot of princesses that don't do fucking shit. And they wait for these guys to do everything and go, you're just not stepping up with what I think. It's like, we're not bringing anything. You're bringing problems. So this is where I would go. Like, ladies, are you bringing the nurture? Are you bringing the empathy? Are you bringing compassion? Are you bringing cheer and that positive chaos? Are you surprising him with more love and encouragement? And they're like, well, I did it one time and he didn't do shit. I'm like, how many years have you been tearing him down? Well, we've been together for 20 years. I'd be like, how many times did you cheer for him? Well, I did it twice. I'm like, interesting that the one that you've done for 20 years, thousands and thousands of times is outweighing your 2 times. Interesting.
No, I mean, I agree. I think people check out, and I think you're right. It's you have to be consciously committed to continuously working on things. You can't
Mm-hmm.
just like, this isn't working and then throw your hands up, or like, it's not yet. Like, you have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think, I do feel like, I think more marriages could be saved, if more people just did their own inner work, like just do your own work. But B, just like, stop waiting until it's 6 years down the road and you guys are miserable like this. It's like a check, right? Like a checkup at the doctor. You go in and you're like, okay, what's working, what's not, what communication, tweaks do we need to keep going? How am I needs not getting met? What do you need from me? How
Mm-hmm.
can I, how can we be closer together?
How often do you recommend a couple does that?
Checkups?
Yeah, just for like, hey, babe, how we doing? How often do you think it would be healthy for a couple to do that? Just your opinion.
I mean, research says like you need at least like intentional date nights monthly. I think some of the people say, or scientists say, like every week take a date night, and at least.
But we already talked about these professionals. A lot of these surveys are done by people who are divorced and not in a relationship.
Yeah, I don't think that's realistic. A weekly date night, like I don't think. But if you sit down and have an intentional meeting and like talk about, where is our relationship working? What are some things that we need to work on? And I would think at least, I don't think it's a bad idea to go see a couples counselor once a year and just talk to a professional and talk about some of the issues before they fester and get worse. It's, I don't know why we would wait. I don't know why we take, it is kind of ironic that we take the relationship that we value the most in our life and we put the least amount of time, effort, and money into it. I mean, of course, yourself, you got to start there, but
maybe not money, but most time, energy, resources, all that stuff. Yeah.
But don't you agree? So many people we are not equipped. I mean, we come from generations of just trauma, just horrible cycles of abuse and trauma. We're all it's all ingrained in us. And like, we should be like actively working to deconstruct all of that crap that we're bringing in, into every relationship, but particularly our marriage. And, I think there's I got to update the statistic, but I think I read somewhere couples will spend, and it's 100 hours planning a wedding, but even that doesn't even seem right, because hundreds probably is more like it. And they'll spend 6 hours in premarital counseling. Like, there you go. Like, it's just like, that is just so bananas. Like, that should definitely be flip-flopped. You should be spending all this time, energy, effort into how to communicate with your partner, how to meet each other's needs, how to meet your own needs.
Do you want to hear anything? When I hung out with this author, I hung out with Anthony Dahlman Jones. He wrote 6 psychology books. He's been doing it for like 40 plus years. And I remember we were talking, he had the same exact plan as you. He's like, hey, you're spending all this time on thinking about the wedding, but how much are you thinking about the marriage? How much are you planning on that thing? And so he's like, you know what we're going to do? He's like, he had him, another psychologist buddy, and a lawyer. And he had a pastor. He had a team. He's like, let's put this team together and let's have couples go through like what to expect. Let's do this. And it goes through like the relationship, the spirituality of it, and the legal aspect of it. And so it'd be 4 parts. And the last part is the attorney going through the legal aspect of what marriage looks like so they can be prepared for that. And so it'd be 4 different sections. At the very beginning, it gets into like, okay, so, I'll just use you and me, for example, like, all right, Terry, what are you going to be doing in the relationship? Rick, what are you going to be doing in the relationship? And be like, oh, well, she's going to be doing all of this. And you're like, the fuck I am. No, that's you. And then I do this. Like, no. What I'm going to do is this and this. And you're going to be doing all of this. Like, no, I've got my career and I've got this. I can't do both. And they started realizing what's cohabitation and how it looks like routines and who's expected to do what. Like, it started revealing what the expectations for relationships were. Now, they did over 100 couples. How many of them you think made it through all 4 stages?
Oh, tell me. I don't know.
Nobody made it to the attorney.
Are you kidding? Really?
They didn't have the setup correct for how to do a marriage. And so they didn't get past the first ones without argument. They didn't get past the first phases without it going, the fuck I am. That's fucking your job. And like, they didn't have it set up. They both had a very different expectation of marriage. And I thought that was fascinating that not one out of 100 could go, okay, that's how we got that. Okay, next step, we got this. Next up, we got the faith element. Next up, we got the legal part. Let's get this. Nobody made it to the attorney. They all were arguing too much to even get to the last phase.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So when you say, like, we spend so much time on the wedding, but are you planning on the marriage?
No.
But no. No wonder
everybody's just winging
working.
it. And the people who are successful, or mostly successful, are two pretty healthy adults who are like, willing to compromise, willing to talk about things, willing to kind of navigate you're kind of winging it. It's, it's fun. It's funny how when, because I'm a divorce coach, like you'll hear like, well, gosh, marriages don't last like they used to. And then you're like, you mean the abusive 50-year, marriage where, the wife was abused for 50 years and she had no other alternative. Like I actually believe, like, people think like that we have less expectations of marriage. And it's actually the opposite. I think we have higher expectations of what a marriage is and how relationships should fulfill us. And again, I think the issue is we don't communicate. What are those expectations prior to getting married? What do you expect in terms of domestic labor? What do you expect in terms of financial, and how do you spend money? And people are,
I agree with you on that. I actually really do agree that people's expectations are higher over what it's supposed to be, but they're doing this thing where they have also the illusion of options has been a real issue. This is because now I can just get on a dating app and get a new one, and I'll just upgrade tomorrow. I'll get a better one. And the illusion of options to be an improvement is not necessarily true, because we're gathering trauma from person to person and then just taking to the next one, thinking they're going to be the cure for my problems. She's going to be the one who fixes me from all the stuff the other ones did. Well, no, you may not completely be responsible for the pain and trauma other people have done to you, but you are completely responsible for the healing. That is your role. And if you're bringing somebody pieces of a broken heart and expecting them to be the cure and the fix and the whatever thing to fix that problem is going to be, if you're that person, like, you're putting so much on another person who's like, well, you're supposed to be my doctor on this. You're supposed to heal my broken heart. Wait a second. I don't see how that's supposed to work, because people just jump to the next option, jump to the next option, jump to the next option. The generational curses thing is correct, though. It's also funny that by the time you figure it out, you already cursed your kids.
Yeah, I know.
That's what the generational curses thing. It's a real thing, because here's another common thing that you've probably seen is, how often do you see that the relationship for the marriage mimics their parents' marriage?
Yeah, I woke up and had realized after my divorce, like, my timeline for my divorces and my children, like, it was like I had relived my mom's life. I was like, holy shit, I just really just redid that pattern. Like, I mean, it was like scary, even down to remarrying. And I had a daughter. My mom did the same thing. She had 2 kids, and then she remarried and she had a daughter, very separate. I'm like, that's some scary shit, Yeah. But we
mimic a parent. As soon as the ring hits, we become what we believe. And what do you believe marriage is? Well, you base it off of your parents. This is another reason I hypothesize why there's a lot of low intimacy marriages. Well, how often do you think about your parents having intimacy?
Yeah.
Yeah, your relationship is mimicking your parents' relationship. One of you became one of them. It's not gender specific, too. I know females who identify with the way their dad is, and guys who identify with how their mom is, and taking on those traits and then marry the corresponding version. Like, well, your wife's traits have all the same traits as your father, and you don't like your father. It's like, yeah, but I just always wanted his approval.
Oh, yeah, that's big.
So if she could just approve me, I get it. Like, and she's not doing it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, that's why you want to do your own work. And then so you see the other partner for who they truly are, and you're not using that person to fix you and to fill that void. That's a huge thing.
I want to do
such a
something that
huge
our couples should be doing to you. I want to praise you for challenging me, Terrie. I enjoy that you do that. Like, I really do. Thank
Okay.
you. Like, I like it. Like, because not enough
Yeah.
people do it, but we need to challenge everything and we need to push on each other. Like, I don't know if that's fully true because I do say audacious things and I need you to go like, I got to push on that one. So thank you for that. And I do appreciate that. You're like, I want to do that. Like, I have to push on that one because that's how we grow in a world right now where people are so triggered that we can't challenge, we can't ask questions, and we can't go like, well, I don't think I agree with you. And people getting triggered into anger or sadness or shutting down or fawning or whatever, defense mechanisms. I want to praise you, warrior to going, I'm going to push on that one. I don't think that one's complete. Good. Thank you for that. I appreciate that very much.
Like, oh, wait a minute, you're kind of contradicting yourself here. Where are we?
Please.
It's a hard thing to do get on someone else's podcast. It's like, Rick, I think you're full of shit. Wait a minute.
Please do, but only say, I think you're full of shit because.
Yes, yeah, okay.
And then bring your because. And so, I think that the next time we do something like this, you're going to be like, now I know I can push on you. And I'm like, thank you. That's what I would like. But I also want to use this examples for these relationships to go, if it's good for Terrie to push on me and for me to push on Terrie, you guys can do that in your relationship too. Well, thank you, babe. Well, what's your opinion? Why do you say that? I want to know more. Can you please explain? This brings health to your relationship instead of like, oh, I can't do fucking anything right. Oh, you're going to talk to me on my podcast? Like, slow down there, Turbo. There's opportunity here. Slow down.
Do you think men are more sensitive to criticism from their partners, though?
Yes.
I think
it's the most important person in the world to them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let
me think about it. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a hard one.
Ladies, you matter. Ladies, the things that you say to your guy matter. And I think that's the accountability that you're talking about is the things you say to him matter the most. He's given you his life and he would die for you. What you say matters. I think the protector element is very underrated because you don't have a lot of break-ins, but that guy would put his life on the line to make sure that you don't have to. And we just throw that away because there's not a lot of intruders. It's like, well, if there was, you'll be very grateful that you have one of those. And so that's one of the things where like, that guy will die for you. He'll die for you. And you won't even say a nice thing. Like, watch what you say. Your opinion matters. Especially to your guys. I'm just putting it out there. It matters.
It does matter. It does matter. And I think because of my own trauma, I was a woman who had like very high walls. It was very scary for me to become vulnerable in my relationship, but particularly my marriage to Pete. And it was very scary. And it's hard for me just to be open and loving and kind and nurturing, which is ironic because I feel like I am that kind of a person. But I think it is just like, it takes a lot of strength to be open and kind and loving. And I think I attract a lot of women. I believe as coaches, we attract kind of like what we've already been through and everything. A lot of those women who've been through so much and they've had to be so protective and they've had to, stand up for themselves. So it's hard for a lot of women to just be open and be vulnerable with their partner. But it goes a long way. But if you understand that this will actually make it stronger and it makes you stronger.
That's a big point. And this is why I say it's warrior talk. To be vulnerable, even for men, is one of their hardest things to do. And the same thing for women. It's very difficult for me to let those walls down or to be authentic or to be open with what I really am or how I really feel without all this fear. Well, isn't challenging something that scares the shit out of you true strength? We call the defense mechanisms attacking and retreating and suppressing and freezing and, the negotiating. We call that strength. We call that control. But really, do you have the actual fortitude and strength to say, you know what, I'm going to open my heart?
Yeah. Well, most people don't.
Yeah. You have the strength to say, I accept you for where you're at, and that's okay. Do you have that? Because if you think that that's weakness, then I think I'm talking to someone who doesn't have a warrior bone in their body. You got to level up your warrior if you're going to be able to say, you know what? I can be strong enough to say I would open my heart to you. I'll be vulnerable to you, and I'll share with you. And I'll accept that sometimes we'll disagree on those things. It's an emotional, subjective point of view. Of course, we're not going to always agree. And I can be accountable to mine. You be accountable to yours. And together we learn from each other and we just get stronger, and that's better. And I think that's what I've come to for relationships is the whole purpose of it is it better together than if we weren't? That's the whole purpose of it. Let's make it so being together is better than if we weren't together. And if not being together is better than together, we're fucking up.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think, but it's so basic, Rick. Like the shit that we're talking about is like so basic and it is so forgotten. Like it's not even, and we definitely don't talk about it. I mean, we don't talk about like people, working on the fundamentals of building a life together. How are we going to raise our kids? How are we going to deal with finances? Like just basic stuff. How are we going to, how are we going to communicate?
Well, simplicity is genius when it comes to all choices because every choice is simple. They're not easy, but it's still the same choice no matter how complicated we make it. Are you going to be nice to your husband or not? Well, you don't understand. He's not doing this and he's not doing that and he should have done this and why didn't he do this and he's being lazy and he's not doing this. I'm like, So at the end of all of that, are you going to be nice to him or not? It's still the same choice no matter how you get there. Are you going to love, honor, and appreciate your partner or not? Are you going to protect her or not? Are you going to be a provider or not? Are you going to make this relationship better for each other or not? Are you going to have a reciprocal relationship or not? It's all of the answers that you have. That's just going to be this long loop. And then it gets right back to like, all right, cool. So that's all great. Are you going to do it or not?
Yeah.
All the choices are simple. We just complicate the shit out of them with our own bullshit.
Hard choices, easy life. Easy choices, hard life.
Boom.
Yeah.
They need bridge builders, Terrie. They need bridge builders. All right. I think that we've got more in us and we're going to have to do some more because now that you know me and I know you, I think we can go harder and I think it's fun. So I think you'll like it. So we'll do another one. And people who are like, you know what? I like Terrie. She's a jam. I do want to do that thing where I can do at least a checkup on my relationship. I do want to have somebody who goes against the grain, has the insight, fortitude, strength, and experience to say, well, you're both doing a thing, and I'd like to have a checkup, and I want to work with Terrie. Terrie, where do they go to do such a behavior?
Well, sure. I can send you over to my website, choosingtorise.com. You can remember that because it's got a nice Southern twang to it, choosingtorise.com. I also have, if you are struggling in your relationships, I've got a Facebook group for men thriving after divorce. And then for women, healing after divorce, that's a Facebook group where you can just get that community support and ongoing resources and ongoing conversations like this that everyone can hear. So I'd love to have everyone join me. Yay.
So join her. Hit the buttons, do all the likes, subscribes, go to all of her things and subscribe to all our stuff. You know what to do. Everybody knows the buttons by this point. But otherwise, Terrie, it has been an honor and a pleasure. And I appreciate what you're doing right now and the many people you're going to be helping soon. Let's do another one. Because now that you know you should challenge the shit out of me, let's have some fun with it, okay?
Okay, Rick. Yay, this was fun. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Click on the button and you can become the hero in your own story. It's time to start making the choices to change. And the evolution that you're going to do begins with choosing the next step. This is the way. And together, we're always stronger.